In the case of Everaz Steel, just north of Regina, we have a steel manufacturer just north of Regina. It employs over 1,000 people, which is a big employer in our province, a huge employer I would put forward in any province. Everaz Steel uses what they call an electric arc furnace. Most steel manufacturers around the world use a blast furnace, in particular in China, and most of the US will use a blast furnace, which is essentially fire. Everaz Steel manufactures their steel with an 80% less emissions than comparable steel manufacturers around the world. 80% less. If you tax that industry, they'll move. They'll move to the United States, or they'll move to China more likely. And when they move there, we will lose our 1,000 jobs. And they will open up a blast furnace and emit 80% more emissions to what I consider a global challenge of climate change isn't helping. And what we really need to do is, rather than taxing industries like this, is start to look at this with a little bit more of a global lens and what the effects of that tax actually is. Are you moving those jobs out of your jurisdiction? And are you actually increasing the emissions into what we're trying to address, which is global climate change? It's not Canadian climate change. It's not Saskatchewan climate change. We need to work together to address it across the nation. That is one of the more stark examples of why we won't have a carbon tax in our province of Saskatchewan. If you tax that industry, we will lose the jobs. We'll have more emissions in the world.